Hey, are we here? Is it real? Good morning. Yes, we're here. I'm here. You're here. I'm going to open up this page on my phone and mute it so I can see the chat. Glorious. Because this is for you. I am really happy to talk to you today about what I'm going to talk to you about, which is the real you. And it actually has to do with conflict. Um, which I want you to know that parenting is one big conflict, in case you were wondering what that's about. Sally, hi. So parenting is like you have a will, you want things for your kids, you have an agenda for their life. Raise your hand if you have an agenda for their life. You want them to be like happy and whole, and you want them to pursue their passions and have wonderful friends and go make amazing relationships. But they don't want that yet. Okay? So parenting, they want things like sugar and screens and to feel better. They want to be comforted, and sometimes that's what you want as well. But often, what's going on in parenting is what you really just need is really amazing skills for conflict. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You need conflict skills. Their agenda and your agenda do not match, and you don't want to hurt them, but you must guide and train and equip them in the way that they should go. And can I get an amen? So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the real you, and we're talking about conflict and why being the real you is the answer for peaceful conflict that gets to the root of the issues, that helps people connect through hard things and brings the truth forward and unifies everybody. Conflict is actually your opportunity to be unified. And so we're going to talk about that today. But let's just take a deep breath, y'all. I got in from Redding, California last night at 11 p.m. with 3 kids to put to bed and a car full of stuff and a screw in my tire. And it wasn't a restful trip, it was an important trip. Tell me if you know the difference between a restful trip and an important trip. Somebody say a restful trip in the chat if you know about what a restful trip is. And if you're the kind of person who goes on trips that are life-changing but not restful, throw me important trip in the chat. It was important. It was not restful. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why in a minute. So tell me in the chat or say, hey, how's your week? What's going on? I would love to hear what your takeaway is from what we've been doing in here. If anyone's having an epiphany, or if you are just, you were already aware of the work that you needed to do, but you're kind of, it's becoming more obvious, or maybe it's starting to feel more urgent or more important. I would love to hear what that's about in the chat. Like, what are you hearing from all this week? Good morning. Hi, Brenna and Lisa and Alyssa. Good morning. Whoever in the future, which might be me, is going to edit this video and post it as a replay like the next time it's replay. I don't know, like when it's real, when it's like in a container that's like maybe a course or something, we're going to edit all of this out. So if you, editor, are hearing me say these words, edit all of this out. Just rewind a little bit and cut this banter here, because how annoying if you bought a course and then you had to just hear me talk about a trip and a good morning. I would love to hear one takeaway in the chat. What's hitting you this week? We're 5 days in, y'all. Day 5. Pat yourself on the back. I've been doing this for 5 days. Let's go. January, faith for your family. Healing for your identity. Clarity on your boundaries. What if you could have that? 2026, you got clear on your boundaries. We're going to talk about that today, so I'm excited. For those of you who just showed up, I'm going to tell you what we're doing today. We're talking about conflict, and we're talking about the real you, and why the real you is the answer to bring peace and unity, understanding, intimacy, connection in conflict. It's the real you. That's what's missing, and we're going to talk about it today. We also talked about how parenting is actually just one big conflict. You have a direction. You want your kids' day, life, hour, brain to go. And they have a direction that they want to go. And those don't match mostly. So Having incredible conflict skills is what great parenting is all about. So I'm going to draw y'all a picture. Are you ready? Somebody say ready in the chat if you're ready. I'm ready. I want to hear that you're ready. You know what's funny? I bought this whiteboard to organize our school days. It has Monday through Friday at the top, weekend, a blank space, and a lined space. But I love to draw stick figures on two sides of a line. It's something I draw a lot when I teach. And the line is already there. How cool is that? Okay, this time though, I'm going to draw up here. We're talking about conflict. Brenna Pinkerton is ready. And here's, I'm going to tell you a story about me, okay? I'm going to tell you a story about me. Is that all right? And you might relate to this story, and I hope you get something out of it. Let me use my whiteboard to tell you the story of my marriage to my children's dad. It's a good story. Here's what it would look like when he and I had a conflict. One of us would say or do something, and the other person would be triggered. Somebody say triggered. I know this is like a psychology soul new world order word. New world order. You know what I'm talking about. Pop psychology. Triggered. Somebody say triggered. I'm going to give you a simple definition for triggered. Triggered means something is happening now. Something is happening now. And I'm having a reaction to it as if something was happening back then. Some things have happened in your life that you felt like you weren't going to survive, and you came up with a set of coping mechanisms for that thing to survive it. Okay? And something is happening now that feels like that. And so the same mechanisms jump into action, usually without us realizing it. So here's what would happen. One of us would say or do our thing, and the other person would get triggered. I'll take some ownership here and say, I got triggered. Woo! Triggered. Triggered. And then we would have a fight, which was like saying things like this. The problem is that you don't step up for us. And I think that was probably triggering. And the other person would say something like, that's because you don't let me. And then this other person who was me might say something like, you need permission to be a man? Oh. And then this other person would say something like, you just are entirely disrespectful, and so we're not having this conversation. That was the worst part for me. Raise your hand if the worst part for you is when somebody says, we're not having this conversation. Oh, that was like the worst for me. The avoidance, the running away, the not going to be here for this. Whew. Okay. So you understand the pattern of triggered that I'm talking about. So we'd wind up in an ugly, sad problem and then take our corners. Meh, fine, okay, we're going to have some distance in our hearts. And then when we would repair, this is important, when we would repair the fight. We would say, I'm really sorry that I said that. Or we would say, I'm sorry that I raised my voice again. Or we would say, let's not communicate that way anymore. But what we did not do is repair the triggers. That's supposed to be a heart. We didn't heal the thing between us that was so painful and causing us to both trip up all the time. We didn't heal our understanding of each other. We didn't take care of the reason we came to this fight. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? So when I was in this, tell me yes in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. You repaired the fight. You smooth over the fight you had, but you don't get to the bottom of the conflict and come to a deeper understanding of each other, greater intimacy. With kids, it's like you don't make the plan to move them a better direction. They don't get on board with their 5 days of journaling that they're going to do to not blow up next time at their sister, whatever it is. We don't make a plan or have understanding about the actual problem, and we don't work on the problem. We work on the fight. Yeah? We say sorry for the fight. Okay. So when I was in this kind of conflict lifestyle, I, more than anything, wanted to know who I was. And since, as I've been talking about in the last couple days, I was outsourcing knowing who I was looking for other people to tell me who I was. And I think even more than knowing who I wanted to know that I was wanted and good as I was. I wanted to know that the people around me, when they saw who I really am, it was something they wanted. I was desirable on the inside. And I wanted to know that who I was on the inside was good, pure, helpful. And I think my greatest fear was that inside I was actually destructive, harmful, morally broken, dysfunctional. Does anybody relate to what I'm saying? Tell me yes in the chat if you have had this fear that deep down inside, the real you is actually not good. And so when we would have this fight where he would make a joke or say something haphazard to me about my parenting or about a board game we were playing or about the dinner or about being late. Everything inside of me went, woo, 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 woo. Oh no, oh no, oh no. What if I'm not good? What if I'm not good? What if you don't want me? What if who I actually am is a destructive thing and not a helpful and beautiful thing? Well, we can just pause there because what a profound thing. So then I would have to fight and say, that's not true. The reason you perceive it that way is this. But I wasn't able to say that in a grounded way. I tried yelling it. Anybody try that? I tried the silent treatment. Fine, crossing my arms and like I'm just agitated at you for the next whatever amount of hours or days. I tried explaining it again, which would be like, since I was afraid I wasn't good, I would explain about him, how what he was doing and saying was so hurtful and wrong. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? We would sit down and I would say, can you not see when you say XYZ, how that does XYZ to me? Explaining. Who's an explainer? Tell me explain if you're an explainer in the chat. Somebody say, explain. And I thought, man, if I could just explain it a better way, maybe he would see me. But that was not correct. Here's what happened. I realized he could not see me because I could not see me. He could not see me because I could not see me. And so when we would get into these fights, I'm going to draw again. This is the good part, y'all. Are you enjoying stick figure pictures here? Okay. When we would get into these fights, here's what was actually going on. Oh, I'm a little slimmer in that one. I liked that. It's cute. Okay. Here's what was actually happening. The real me was back here somewhere. Not seen, not known, not heard. This is the real honest me, like the tender one, the truth of who I am. But my representative would go defend me and talk about how he should do this differently and not put me in this alarm state where I wonder if I'm good at all or if I'm wanted. Okay? So the real me was actually back here. And what I'm talking about, what I realized, what I learned to do is that the problem is not that he doesn't see or know the real me. The problem is that I don't, and so that's not who I'm showing him. So what I needed to do was go see the real me. And then what I did is I could bring the real me to these conversations. Instead of my representative who's going to yell, silent treatment, explain, coerce, manipulate, lose it. That was a pretty aggressive lose it. Or I could bring the real me, and two things happened. Are you ready? Say two things. Two things is what you're listening for today. Two things happened. Number one, he could say or do a thing, and instead of getting triggered because I don't know who I am or if he wants me, I could take that thing, he sends it this way, and I could go, catch, there's that thing. That's not for me because it doesn't match who I am. So then the thought is, this must be about him. And I need to learn about him. I caught that thought. He would say, you made your decisions. In other words, this is your fault. And since I know it's not my fault because I know the real me and I commune with Christ and there's no one to blame here, I go, whoop, nope. Okay. So the first thing I learned is how to catch that thought and not let it go inside me or cause an alarm, and then send it back and say, what is this about? I'm curious because you're saying this and it's not true about me. So I wonder what that's about. Because probably it's about him having a feeling or a pain or an experience that is accusing who he is, and I can help with that. That's one thing that happened. The other incredible thing that happened when I got the real me into the conversation is that I started to share in an inviting, welcoming, and loving way to be seen and loved and heard. I started to share about me, not about him. So I started to say things like, I need a minute about what you just said because I think this is what it meant, but I know that's not true. I think I feel a little bit trapped when we talk about it that way. Because I either have to tell you that that's correct, which is a lie, or I have to fight against you about it, and I'm not going to do that. Because I know me. I started to say things like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed because there's just so many details to my day. And I think that I started to make that your fault. And I'm really sorry. See, because I already know me. I know me. So I can share about me and he can hear about me. And what I hear every time from my kid's dad in this season is, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. Because he knows the bold work as well about sharing about him. Okay, so the work that we do in Brave Moms Academy, which is not just for moms, so we're considering renaming it, but I just love the name so much because it is courageous work about leaving a legacy, stopping a legacy of blame, disconnection, tension, and drowning, anxiety and insecurity, and it's starting a legacy of peace and joy and unity and connection and thriving families, thriving relationships, and healed broken relationships. So it's called Brave Moms Academy because every woman leaves a legacy. Every one of you is leaving a legacy somewhere. So it's for everyone, but here's the work. The work in BMA on one level, BMA, when I say that, that's Brave Moms Academy, on one level is to the work of getting the real me, getting to know her, first of all, getting to know her. So we set boundaries in the relationships that feel safe to everybody. They feel safe to everybody so that you can go get to know this person. And then we walk her here. And when it doesn't go so good and you forget who you are, we just come back, get the support that you need, find out who she is again, and then walk her back and try again. That's what Brave Moms Academy is about on one plane. And I want you to know there are so many levels of, you can pick your own level of support now in Brave Moms Academy. So if you need to make this journey, this information today and in the last 4 days and in the next 25 days might be enough for you to have a click and to get it. And that's wonderful. That's my heart for this challenge, is that as many people who can get it in 30 days of listening to lessons, watching stick figures can get this. I want you to get this. If you need support with this, I want you to know that is available on all different levels. And we just can't wait to meet the next Brave Mamas who run with us on an intimate level because it is just so tremendous. Okay. I would love to hear your takeaways. The payoff, let's talk about really quick the payoff of this, the work here. What happens now is that we get to be seen and heard and understood together. And I'm so sure in Christ, over here, I'm so sure in Christ about who I really am that this adventure is just about revealing that. It's not about defending it. It's not about proving it. It's not about protecting it. I don't have to protect it. That's what Christ does. It's about revealing it. And you'll know when you start revealing gently, kindly, humbly who you really are to people, you're going to know who your people are. And you're going to know who's willing to go forward with you in this same work. And you're going to know how deep of a relationship you can have with those people. I'm going to tell you, when this other person is 12 and under, when this is a kid and you learn this work, I'm calling it present-centered parenting from now on. Parenting with presence. When the real you comes into your parenting, you're not exhausted anymore because you're not fixing them and you're not defending yourself. You're just there. You're present, and that does all the work. And when it's children that you're working with, they follow your lead and they just do the work. They also go find out about the real them, and you can go there with them and do that. It's automatic. That's how Brave Moms Academy was born, is I found out that if I did this journey, my kids would automatically come with me. Are you kidding me? That's incredible. So now in our conflicts, in a parenting moment, it's the real me with the real them. How many of you want that? How cool is that? So presence is that I'm really here. Connection is when we're both really here. And when we're both really here, the possibilities are endless for where we want to go and what God wants to do. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to tell you a story this last weekend, and we're going to try to wrap by minute 30, which is in 8 minutes and 20 seconds. So I'm going to try to be concise. This weekend, I went on a trip to my church away from home, and because my kid's dad had some old friends visit, and our mutual old friend said, we really want to go down and visit this church. And he was like, that sounds amazing. And so he grabbed one of my kids who wanted to go and said, can I drop the other two off a little bit early? We're going to go down to this church. And I, in my heart, was like, I really want to go as well. And I kind of did the real me assessment, like, do I have capacity for that this weekend? And I barely came up with a yes, y'all. I'm like, I need some rest. I need some routine in the new year. But I came up with a yes, a wholehearted yes. Do you know what a wholehearted yes is? Compared to like, I'm really not sure if I should be doing this kind of yes. Okay, I came up with a wholehearted yes. We went down on this trip, and I was shocked and had so much fun being seen and heard by our old friends who were there with us. And they were so loving and so validating. We had so much fun as a family. Like, our kids were all playing together, and we were playing games and watching movies. We had so much fun together that I felt so relaxed that an old trigger came my way, and I did the old coping mechanisms, y'all. I fully got angry. I've not done this in 3 years with my kid's dad. I do not do it anymore. I've learned this path. And so I was so shocked at myself and so embarrassed. Have you ever been so embarrassed about the way you behave in a fight? I said things I didn't mean. I got angry. I asked him to step outside with me and have a conversation, and he is so kind. And he was like, yes, let's do that. Let's not have a fight in front of all these people. And we went out and had a conversation, and he sent me some defenses that felt more like accusations about me. And I laid awake all night that night, asking the Lord what was true and doing my work. Was that true about me? Didn't you say this? I don't know what reality is, because he's so kind and I trust him so much now that the things he's saying have more weight. You understand? You got to put in some reps, because the people you trust will have more weight along the way. So he's in a kind, trustworthy position now with me, and he has more weight. So when he said these things, I had to lay awake all night and ask the Lord if this was true about me. Reinforce that it wasn't true. And then also I had big questions about, does he really see me or think that I'm good like I have thought? Or is this kind of an illusion that I'm living in? And so we got to revisit our conversation yesterday. I had already immediately apologized for getting angry and raising my voice and saying mean things. I did apologize for that right away. But I was rocked by my capacity to get flung back into this place. Do you ever find yourself yelling or being vicious or shutting down and saying, like, I swore I wasn't going to do this again? Like, you slam a door and you're like, I keep telling myself I am not going to be this mom. This is where I was at. I was so embarrassed, I think mostly. And so we got to communicate yesterday, but here's what happened between. So we had the little fight, okay? We sat outside together, we talked. It was calm, but I was not proud of the way I communicated. I wasn't curious about him. I didn't take the thoughts captive very well, and I didn't do a good, humble job sharing about me so that he could see me. I didn't do that stuff. I slipped back into fight mode, okay? Somebody say fight mode, fight mode. Like, I hear a little alarm in my head. I'm like, yo, bro, you just triggered fight mode. You got fight mama right now. Okay, that's what happened. It's been a long time, but I went and I did my work with the Lord. I went out of fight mode. I prayed. I went to worship. I cried a lot. How many of you know you need to cry a lot to get those feelings out of the way so you can see clearly? And then I said, hey, can we talk? Can we communicate again about what happened? And he agreed to that. There were certain things he didn't want to go over and certain things he was willing to talk about. And so I was able to honor that. And we did wind up talking about some more of the things that he was a little wary about, which I'm so grateful for. But I was able to say, hey, here's what the Lord has shown me about this. And when you said these words, it was like I heard my accuser. And I trust you so much now that I thought it might be true. And he was so sorry that he brought that to my door. And then explained to me why he said what he said, and it was not because that's who he thinks I am. Do y'all get what I'm saying? You can have this. You can go back and not just solve the fact that we fought, but you can solve what the fight is about. See, I was able to examine, what did he say? These bubbles, I'm going to catch these things that he said. What did he say? And what did they tell me about me? What is actually true about me? And what am I ready to go share with him about this? And what questions do I have about these things? Do you ever get in such a swirl of a conflict that you're like, I don't even know right now what I'm reacting to? I don't have the words for why this is so hard. Especially that happens if someone is a shutter downer. Their shutting down and being not willing to talk can be so excruciating because it's so hard to identify what's happening that's actually the problem, that's actually accusing you or making you feel terrible about yourself and untrusting of this person. It's really hard to identify. Does anybody resonate with that? Tell me in the chat. It's hard to identify sometimes. This takes work and this takes intentionality, but I want to tell you a verse today. The lie that I believed before I did my real me work in conflict, the lie that I believed is we need to get our eyes off of ourselves and onto Christ. I heard that this weekend. How many of you have heard that and thought, I need to stop learning about myself. I just need to focus on Jesus. So for the first 12 years we were married, every time this would happen, I would be like, I don't need to worry about what's going on inside of me. I'm just going to thank the Lord that I am still here and I'm going to bless his name. I'm going to read the Bible. But then we didn't get to the bottom of the conflict. And here's the verse I found that changed everything for me. Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Now, when I go do my work, I go, what did he say that got me? What's really true about me? You better believe that that is a Christ-centered process. But that the scripture also says, therefore, as dearly loved children, be imitators of God. And I was trying to be in a fight as a representative of me as not a dearly loved child. I was trying to do that as a defensive, proud adult. But the word says to do that as a dearly loved child. And so I want to tell you today that the journey you must go on to identify you, let's say it this way, to let the Lord identify you is not a sinful or fleshy journey. In fact, if you don't go on that journey, if I don't go back here and find the real me and then bring her to the table and learn what that means, I'm going to keep producing destruction, distance, chaos. People cannot trust me because my self-defensive representative is in the room. When the real me is in the room, Christ moves through me. When the real me is in the room, Christ moves through me. When the real you is in the room, Jesus is moving. He wants to display his glory in the world through what he made. And he's deeply invested in displaying his glory in your life because he wants people to know him. He's more invested in that than you are. So when you get to know the real you and you learn to bring her in the room or him, you are prioritizing Christ for the people that you love. Can I get an amen? Can we get down with that? Okay. Was this helpful? I see a cool comment in the chat. Amazing how this applies to how we interact with our kids, significant others, parents, our friends, and families. Yes. Oh, thank you for saying that. It blows my mind. It's really hard for me to go on social media and talk about what this is because it's so much. It's so much. It's really you discovering who you are and that's where Christ lives, and how to not back her down, tweak her, or compromise her in any given situation so that he can flood the hardest and darkest places of the world, starting with your room, and then your kitchen and living room, and then your whole family environment, and then your city, and then whatever nation he might want to send you to, and any trafficking situation or drug use situation, any ministry he wants to give to you. It all starts with being lit up from the inside out, the truth of who you are, and getting this old junk out of there. And he does it through our relationships. The pain you are experiencing in your parenting and the pain you're experiencing in your marriage or with your grown parents or your siblings, in-laws, coworkers, or roommates, anybody, is the indication that there is a lie about you going on the inside that he would like to heal. So in Brave Moms, we put on communication skills that reveal those lies. They're safe boundaries for others while we get the lies revealed so we can go on this journey with God and be the real us. Okay, we went a little bit long. Oh, 1 minute, 40 seconds over. That's not bad. How many of you know I'm working on being late? Okay, I have loved sharing this with you today. I hope this is helpful. I want you to make a post every day that you're in this challenge. I'm going to challenge you about something right now. We're on day 5. I'm so proud of you for coming this far and hanging in and examining your heart about these things. This is emotionally heavy lifting. So good job. I'm so proud of you. I want you to keep going. Now, the way that you are going to get the absolute most out of this is when those daily activations pop up in the Facebook group, make a comment on there. Tell us what you heard, what you're learning, and what you're struggling with. And you can do that in Circle as well. You can pick one channel or you could do it in both. The more you process this with your own thoughts, the more you're going to get out of this. And the better I'm going to know what to keep bringing and what angle to keep bringing it from as we go through these 30 days. So the very richest thing you can do to have the greatest transformation in this time in January is to make your posts. Okay? It's a little challenge. Okay. I will be back here 9 a.m. PST Tuesday for day 6. Man, it's going to be a good one. We're going to talk more about the real you and how to set up some boundaries so that you can discover who in the world that is. And so that when you bring her and you get the butterflies in your tummy, you don't have to collapse and compromise. You can maintain it, okay? Oh gosh, this is getting real. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your hearts. See you there. Goodbye.